Hello friends and welcome to the Craft Cottage. I'm so glad that you joined me this week because we are doing some more patriotic rustic DIYs. Let's get started. I am going to be trying out this new hot glue gun I got from Katerk today in this video. It is an amazing little hot glue gun. It has a heat shielded nozzle, a flame retardant housing, an ergonomic design, a drip proof design, which we will prove in this video, and a tip resistant base. In the description box below, you will find a discount code that I think you will find very affordable. Now let's get started. We're going to start out with these little spools that I had stained previously for a project and never used. I have some blue fabric with some white stars that I got from Hobby Lobby, and these fat squares that I also got from Hobby Lobby. I'm going to do that snip and rip method. I'm going to measure out how much I'm going to need to wrap around the inside of these little spools, and then we're just going to do that little rip and snip method. I just cut off however much I needed to use for this project, and yeah, just see how much I need, measure it out a little bit, rip it, snip it, rip it and snip it. And then I'm going to kind of smooth it out a little bit with my fingers because when you rip it, sometimes it curls up a little bit. And then we are going to bring out the Katerk hot glue gun. It heated up. I'm going to show you what's included in the box. Some really nice glue sticks and the glue gun and instructions. This is a corded glue gun. I wasn't sure if I was getting the corded or the cordless when Katerk reached out and sent it to me. It has the little flip stand, which is very sturdy, and a cord and an on-off switch, which is very nice. So I'm going to plug it in and we're going to see how long it takes for it to heat up. Okay, it took about 60 seconds for it to heat up, which is very nice and quick, and the glue comes out really nice. I'm really impressed with this. It is a pretty fine tip. The glue comes out like a fine tip, but the tip is not very long, which is a good safety measure. I'm just going to wrap that little piece of fabric around my little spool, and I wrapped it around a couple times, and just because that was the length and I didn't want to cut it off, but I also like how it gave me more frayed edges around the edges. So I'm going to do the blue one, and I'm going to do the red and white fabric on the other three. I'm going to use my little handy dandy tabletop vacuum to get up all those little crumbs. And I'm showing you here that I really absolutely love this. No drips. I'm going to continue to show you in this video about the no drips. But this is, it ended up, I should have done the fabric where the straps went the other way. Yeah, no drips. Where the straps went the other way, but I didn't, and it still turns out super cute. Now, because these don't have a lot of space to put glue and have them adhere, we're going to use some little skewers and just glue these together end to end. I'm making sure that I get my ends where I started and stopped the fabric all lined up. And then to glue these two together, there's just not enough surface to make good contact. So I just put a little piece of glue there, and then I decided to wrap some twine around each end, and it made it look really good. Still no drips. Still no drips. Okay, I'm going to just put a little hot glue on the back, and then I'm just going to wrap these around securely so that it will hold them all nice and tight and snug, making it feel all nice and secure. And I'm thinking about this week. I had a pretty emotional week this week, and I'm thinking about how, just like this, Jesus just wraps his arms around me like I'm wrapping this twine around and around and around, and he just holds me all nice and snug and gives me peace. And he can do that for you too. You just have to ask him and just let him. He wants to. So we're just going to wrap this around nice and tight and snug. Like my friend Wendy says, snug as a bug in a rug. And yeah, this is how it turned out. I think it's cute for a little tier tray. Just a little extra piece for a vignette. For this patriotic DIY, we're going to use some wooden beads, wooden spools, and a wood tag, and some jute twine. And I'm just going to tap my fingers on the table a little while I think. I'm going to put a big dollop of white acrylic paint in my bowl and just spritz it with a little bit of water to water it down, mix it really good. Then I'm going to throw 5 of those beads in there and swirl them around. There's a million different ways you can paint beads. I'm going to put them on a skewer. This is just the way I'm doing it today. I sometimes put them in a baggie and smush them around, but I'm just going to wipe some of that off with that wet wipe and then dry them with the heat gun. I'm going to use the vintage linen and paint that little tag, that little wooden tag. You can see up there that I did the red, white, and blue beads. I have these stencils that I got from Amazon. Pretty sure I got these off Amazon. And I'm just going to pick this one that has 1776. I'm going to use a little sponge dauber and some brown paint. And I'm going to put 1776 on our tag. And then we're going to hold that stencil down really tightly and clean the stencil up when we're done so we can take good care of our supplies. And then we're going to let this dry completely and then come back in with our finger sander and sand over it lightly just to give it that little bit of aged look, and then sand around the edges for a little bit of that aged look. Then I'm going to take the dark wax that's just kind of left over in my brush and go over these beads a little bit. Give them a little, it'll age them up a little bit and seal them. Same with our little tag. Front, back, sides, all of it's going to get a coat of dark wax, and we're going to wipe it back. We're going to snip and rip some more of this little fabric with the stars on it. It's blue with the white stars and some of the red, and I think I did some of the white too. We're just going to start doing a pattern. Blue, white, red, a spool, blue, white, red, a spool, blue, white, red, a spool, until we run out of things to thread on here. And then at the end, we are going to put our little wooden tag. We're just going to add it to the end of our little garland. No, maybe we're not. I don't know what. Oh, we're going to put some little fabric on there first. We're just going to, I had put a bunch on there and I decided I didn't like a bunch on there. So I just decided that I would just put one little piece on each side of each spool. And I thought this just added a little bit of extra texture to it, and I love how this turned out. So on one end, I'm going to tie knots on each end so that we do have the little pieces of fabric on there, but this will help everything to stay in place and not be sliding off. I am going to take that tag. I promise you, I'm going to put that tag on the end of this garland eventually. Here we go. Now I'm just going to double it over because I love to use this method. I think that it helps it to lay a little nicer, where you bend over your twine and pull it through, and then just put one end of that twine that's in there and back through that loop. And then I believe I cut off the excess. Nope, maybe I left it on. Now, with the rest of those strips, we're just going to make one of those messy, floppy bows, if you call it a bow. I'm just going to use a piece of that string to tie in the middle really tightly, as you see me doing here. And then I'm going to use that to tie onto the piece of twine. And I'm going to tie it really tight on there so it doesn't go anywhere. I may have tied another knot in the twine on top of that just to keep everything in place. I guess you needed to see everything. But then I just kind of shake that little bow out, and this is how it turned out.
No drips. I've had it on for over an hour, not one single drip. I turned on my Surebonder at the same time, and look at it. That one drips like crazy. That one, no drips. That's the mini Surebonder. That Surebonder drips like crazy. This Katerk, however you say it, works like a charm.
I picked up quite a few of these shapes from a guy on Facebook Marketplace. I got stars and USA shapes. So I have been crafting with these and having a really good time. They were at Target in 2021. So you probably are not going to find these, but I probably will be selling them on Whatnot in the near future. So if you're interested in those, you could just drop me an email and let me know, and maybe I could ship some out to you. But we're going to stain this USA shape with the Dark and Decrepit. I'm going to use a chippy brush. I'm going to put it on there generously, and then I'm going to take the baby wipe and just wipe off the excess. From that same stencil pack that you saw me going through earlier, I'm going to pick this America 1776 established one, and I'm going to tape it down to my surface. I'm taping over the greenery because we're not going to use that. We're going to use some vintage linen paint and this makeup brush to use for stenciling. It works like a charm. I also like to use those little I don't know what those are. They're little sponges. Anyway, we're going to use the makeup brush for the white and for the America 1776 established. And now I'm going to put the paint on there, and then I'm going to offload most of it. And I'm going to just go in a circular motion while I'm holding down the stencil. I'm holding it down pretty tight to the surface so that I don't get any bleeding. And then I don't want too much paint on my brush, and I did do it 2 coats. It dries really fast because I don't have a lot of paint on my brush, but I did go over it 2 times, and I had no bleeding at all. You're going to see it here shortly. I'm just going to go over this quickly. I've got it in super fast motion, and I had to really push down that stencil on the top because it didn't lay down in there, so I just had to go push it down. Now, for those stars, I'm going to use the blue from Dixie Belle, and I'm using that little finger dauber, and they work really, really good too. Just offloading most of the paint, and I did 2 coats on that. Fingers crossed, and it looks fantastic. Now I'm just taking off the little piece of tape I had to designate where the center was. Now I'm going to take this other little star stencil that came in that pack, and I'm going to add some red stars. I'm only going to show you one side because I do not want this video to be super long and boring. So I'm going to just show you how I did one side, did the star there. I'm going to pick it up, and I'm going to dry it. I'm going to do 2 coats and dry it in between. And then I'm going to pick it up, and I'm going to wipe the back side off, because sometimes if that bleeds through the tiniest little bit, then you can make a big mess on your project. So I'm going to do the same thing for the second red star, and then I'll do the same thing on the right side where that other blue star is. And then it's going to look like this. Then I had some little wooden stars in my stash, and I painted it with that blue, and I'm going to take some of that white paint that same that I used, and I'm just going to go around the edges. Now I'm putting this blue star in Texas. Now if you know, you know that why I painted it blue and not red. for a star in Texas? Leave a comment down in the comment section below. I just made a bow. I did not film this, but I made a bow and put some greenery on there. And this does stand up by itself, but it stands kind of crooked. But this is how it turned out. Nothing says patriotic like stars and stripes and USA. So we're going to put this scrapbook paper that I picked up at Hobby Lobby on these letters. I'm just going to trace them out. Not sure why I flipped it over and did it on the back on this one and didn't on the others. No rhyme or reason to my madness, but I just traced around them, cut them out, and I just kind of did a messy cut. And then I'm going to use some Mod Podge to attach them. I'm just making sure it fits. Then I'm going to take my Mod Podge in my little peanuts lid, because I make my own peanut butter. I'm a little crunchy like that. And then I'm taking a fan brush and I'm just going to apply it, a generous, even coat all over the top, trying not to get it on the sides. And I'm going to do all 3 letters. Then we're going to set it aside and let it dry. And then once it's completely dry, then we're going to take our little iron. I'm going to use my little Cricut iron, and you can use a household iron or a heat press or something, just so there's no steam. And that little edge didn't adhere down very good, so I just going to press it down a little bit more. And then I'm just going to take my scissors and trim around the edge to get most of that off. And then I'm going to take my little finger sander, and in a downward motion, I'm going to start sanding. I do not know why my phone started recording in slow-mo. So right here, I have it sped up like 8 times fast, and it's still this slow. It was crazy. Sometimes I think if my phone gets hot, it does that. And with all the lighting that I have, sometimes that happens. I don't know. Or I just don't know. I have no clue why that I was recording in slow motion. So once I got all of the letters, the paper on them, then I sanded the back of them a little bit to distress them. And then I'm going to just clean all the little sawdust off, all the little pieces of paper off, and give them a good little wipe down. Then I'm going to grab my Sweet Pickins dark oil and a chippy brush, and we're just going to wipe it all over the front, sides, back, insides, outsides, front sides, back sides, all the sides, and give it a good coat, and then set it aside and give it some time to soak in. It was probably about 15 minutes. And then I'm going to take my little scrap of a old t-shirt and then just wipe off the excess and just dry it so that there's no sticky residue. And I just absolutely love how these turned out. There's so many possibilities. You could put them on a little base. I wanted to put them on a piece of scrap wood base, but I think they just are so cute for a tier tray or a book stack or any type of decor. I picked these up at the thrift store, and they are some type of little wind chimes. I'm not sure really, but they're super cute, and I knew I wanted to make something cute. And so I'm going to paint them haphazardly with a fan brush, kind of almost dry brushing them. I'm going to do one red, one white, and one blue. And then once they are dry, I'm going to attach them with some twine and then make a hanger at the top with twine. And then I'm going to add some of those little strips of fabric that I used on the garland. We're going to attach them to the top loops. I have a scrap piece of wood and a little scrap piece of an Amazon bag. You could just use a regular piece of brown paper, but this is like 2-ply. So I would suggest, I like it because it's a little thicker. You know how it's like the Amazon bag that for deliveries. And so I'm just going to, you can see what I'm doing here. I'm just ripping it down to size. And then I'm going to paint a flag on it. I'm going to use the blue, just make a little square, a little rectangle for the blue, just like you make a flag. Everybody knows how the flag look, the American flag looks. So we're just going to do that. Then we'll make some red stripes, some white stripes, and this is very rustic, so we do not need to make it all perfect. In fact, my stripes are not all the same width. They're not even, and that's okay because it's rustic and the paint's not even, and I did that on purpose because we want this to look a little bit rustic. I had a hard time leaving it not perfect because, oh, the perfectionist in me and I do get a little bit pedantic about things sometimes, but I was trying not to be. And so, yeah, I'm going to give it some time and let it dry and then go back in once it's dry and do the white, because guess what? If we don't, we're going to have some pink stripes. And we don't want pink stripes on our American flag. So once we get all that done, then we're going to take the end of a paintbrush, a small paintbrush, and just make a bunch of dots. There was no rhyme or reason, or I didn't count them. I just put a bunch of dots in the blue square, and it turned out fine. They are not all the same size, and guess what? It's okay because it's rustic and it's a DIY. We don't care if they're all the same size. Now, once it was dry, well, I put it aside to dry while I did this part. I took the Dark and Decrepit and the chippy brush, and I'm just going to sloppily, very sloppily, put a coat on all the sides, and then I'm just going to take a little rag and just pat it off. Now this is dry. I have a tiny little bit of DIY white wax left in the jar, and I have this little chippy brush that I used solely for this purpose, and I'm just going to put around a little bit. You're not even going to hardly see it, but I just thought it would kind of age it up a little bit. And so I'm going to do that all the way around, because if this is a shelf sitter or if it's on a tier tray, you might be able to see the back and the sides. And then we're just going to take some hot glue, and with our glue gun that is still not dripping, and it fits in your hands so nicely. It's very super lightweight, and we're just going to press that down. I'm going to take a little that brush that had the oil wax, and just brush it over that a little bit, and this is how it turns out.
Thank you so much, friends, for being here this week. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure and give it a thumbs up. Drop me a comment down in the comment section below. Even if it's just an emoji, let me know you were here. I like to connect with you down there in the comments. But most of all, I want you to remember to be still and know that He is God.